kickoff session by Richard Campbell. If you don't want to go all day, just email me. We can set you up with tickets for an individual event or a section. It's all good. The whole idea of VanTUG here is to have it give information for everybody so that we're able to share information, share knowledge. Our objective is to have people like Ash come and share information with you. We're traditionally a Microsoft user group. We've been around for almost 20 years this year. So events like this have been going on for a long time, and we hope to have continuing events as we go forward. Back to the 3 tracks, the PowerShell Security DevOps, ASP.NET. After that, there is another event in April, on April 7th. It's going to be an Ask Me Anything event. We might even get to the point where we can live stream it. We'll tell you when we're closer. This talk should go up on the YouTube channel, and we'll try and share it with you again if you want to come back and have a look at it. It's kind of clunky. I'm just getting my feet wet with social media and the YouTube streaming and stuff, so forgive me for all my errors, but we just try and post what we can. I also remind you guys to introduce yourselves to each other. You don't know if your next job's in this room or your next consultant for getting something done at your place of employment. If you need anything, feel free to chatter up either in the meetup groups or in the LinkedIn groups or on Facebook and talk to each other and connect. That's really what it's all about, is networking and learning, so that it makes all of our jobs easier. I know 20 years ago I was attending VanTUG when I was still wet behind the ears. Now I'm just wet behind the ears from having a shower. You feel pretty good. So, thank you. Without any further ado, I'd like to thank Ash, and I'll start this other camera here so that we can try and record it. Hello. Okay. Thank you very much, Ash.
Thank you very much, James, and round of applause for James for organizing this. So today we're going to talk about DevOps, Microsoft and DevOps. Let's just talk a little bit about me, and then I want to ask a bit about you, what your background is, and what your intention is to learn. So a bit about me. Currently, I'm working at DNN Corp. I don't know how many of you guys have heard .NET Nuke in the past. Okay, a few Drupal, Joomla, WordPress, you guys know that? So, very good. So those are in the LAMP stack, primarily, Drupal, and .NET Nuke is in .NET, ASP.NET. This is one of the largest open source ASP.NET content management system. So basically you create websites, but it's a content management system. It's based on ASP.NET. I've been working here for about 5 years. I'm director of engineering there, look after all the engineering activity. This is an open source product. There is a commercial edition on top of that. It's called as Evoke. I look after both the commercial as well as the open source. In terms of my technology experience, I've been writing code for about 19 years now. Started with legacy, mainframe, C++, those kind of things. Recently, well, for a few years, ASP.NET, JavaScript, and recently on the cloud using Microsoft Azure. That's where our company is going. That's where a lot of people are going on the Microsoft spaces. Actually, that cloud, Microsoft Cloud, has really matured quite a lot in the past. So like I said about DNN Corp, we're one of the largest ASP.NET based open source. The company has about 750,000 sites built on this technology. It's been around for a bit, for about 10 years now. Incidentally, not a lot of people know in Vancouver itself. It was founded in Abbotsford, for all the places. That's where our founder was from. And so the office is in Langley. It's a little bit outside of Vancouver. I live in Cloverdale. But the reason for that office there is that our founder was from there. So it's a very Canadian company. Our headquarters is in California now, but it was all founded here, so we're pretty proud of that. I also happen to be Microsoft MVP, and that's why I'm here. on behalf of Microsoft, talk about the technology on DevOps. So enough about me. I want to know a little bit about you guys. Are you guys primarily developer? How many developers? Just raise your hand. You? Okay. Okay, on the developer side, is that Microsoft or is it open source, primarily Microsoft? Okay, web application, ASP.NET or .NET or C++ or? Mix. Okay, sounds good. How about the rest? Are you guys IT?
Yep.
DevOps?
I convert.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to ask a very interesting question. You guys all know FTP, right? When was the last time you used FTP?
Yesterday.
Yesterday, okay. Recently, yesterday, okay.
Yeah.
You guys all have servers in your office, in your environment, right? Network file servers. How well do you know their names?
Machine names.
Yeah, machine names, like, you access the network shares and things like that.
I'm using Azure.
Okay, Azure. So, all right, so I think, when you guys said you used FTP, so that's a red flag for me. FTP is pretty old technology. It's been around, that people use it for file sharing and stuff like that. But I hope you're not using that for your deployments. Deploying code, I'm guessing some of you are, which is okay, but that's the whole purpose of this talk, is to how to not use those tools and move on to a much more automated way of doing DevOps. That's all. That's a whole new. It's a modern paradigm. It's gotten attention in the last, I'm going to say, 2 to 3 years. So it's just taking off right now. In my company, I use a variety of tools. We deploy directly to Azure. So we'll talk about a few of those. So today we'll talk about the DevOps. What exactly is DevOps, and what are some of the tooling available to enable DevOps. I do have a quick question. So I have a bunch of slides here that I want to go through, but I also have some hands-on that I want to show. Which one are you interested in more? The talk or see or both or? Oh, okay. All right. So
about the tools.
About the tools, okay. So I'll try to do kind of an end-to-end Microsoft application, sort of a very simple hello world. Deploy it all the way into the cloud and manage some of the DevOps aspect. I may not be able to, given the time frame we have, I may not be able to show you everything working, but at least 70% of what you would do. So stick around. So this presentation is not only about the Microsoft. I know we'll talk about some of the tools that are available in other in the open source space as well, but Microsoft has made a big effort. In fact, they made a big effort in the entire cloud movement. It's really huge. I was watching recently, about last 6 months back or so, there was an Oracle conference in Silicon Valley. I was watching online, and what the Larry Ellison, the CEO, or I don't know what he is right now, the main guy of Oracle, he said there are only 2 companies right now who's doing really, really good on the cloud. Right from every layers, and I'll tell you what those layers are. You guys familiar with the cloud? What's going on in the cloud? Yeah, okay. So they said Amazon and Microsoft. That's these 2 companies. There are other companies out there as well, Rackspace and whatnot. But Microsoft has really gotten its game into it. Amazon has been there for a bit earlier. But you talk about the infrastructure, they talk about the platform, they talk about the various services that's out there. It's up there right now. It's all production quality.
Do you think that Microsoft today, the national post is that Microsoft have pushed the installation of the data center? That means that people would not have the confidence on using cloud?
Well, so they have another technology called as Azure Stack, Microsoft Azure Stack. That is meant to run pretty much the same thing as you would run on a cloud, but an on-premise scenario. So a lot of customers are hesitant to go to, a lot of people are hesitant to go to cloud because of privacy concerns, customers' data, whatnot. A lot of companies have made the move, but not everybody has made the move. So to help those people who do not want to go into the cloud, there is this whole Azure Stack that you can run on your local data center. So just one quick note about something that I read about the move to the cloud. You guys know General Electric, right? General Electric, GE. They have about 34 data centers worldwide, and I think it was a Wall Street Journal article where they said out of the 34, they have offlined 31 of those, and they've all gone to Amazon. You know, whatever reason, they choose one or the other vendors. They have only 3 data centers running right now, and those are for their confidential, top secret. Everything else has gone to cloud. Netflix, the same article said, Netflix has completely turned off, excuse me, their data centers, their own personal data centers, and they have gone on to Amazon as well. So this is a real thing. This is a real movement. Eventually everything will go into the cloud. So it's important that we all understand what are the tools available for us to take advantage of that and to be efficient there.
So now we have Canadian data centers in Canada as well.
Yeah,
They just
I
made an
don't, I think
announcement
it's today, right?
They
Was that,
announced,
yeah.
limited rollout.
Right, that's what I heard, yeah. So we'll talk about the traditional development. What happens here is that, you know, on one hand, so one thing I want to, as we go along, there is a very interesting video. It's a 1.5 minute video. I'll show you a little bit later. What it talks about is that how about, just go backwards about 10 years back or even 7 years back, there used to be a developer department, you're a developer, and there was this QA that was a separate department. Last 5 years, you would see with the whole Agile thing going on, it's all one team, right? There's a developer, there is QA, there are designers, there are product management, there is a Scrum Master. They're all in that one team. Same thing is happening on the on the ops side. That's the new trend. Right now, you would see here on one hand of the wall is the dev, and on the other side is the ops. And what happens is that, oops, I think I just skipped a little bit. So I think what this slide indicates is that, you know, there's throw the code here, and the ops guys, they don't know much about what the program is, how to configure it. You know, it's just basically 2 different departments, 2 different teams, 2 different groups. So a lot of bad things happen.
Wall Street ticker.
So just out of curiosity, what do you guys think about a DevOps? Does anybody want to add any comment here? What do you think what DevOps is? DevOps is
continuous data application deployment or development.
yeah, so that's one aspect. Anybody else want to take a stab at it?
Is the culture change?
Yeah, definitely is part of that. That's big actually. That's quite a big. Well, we'll see what Microsoft has to say. So DevOps is development and operational collaboration. So both the developers and ops, they have to work together. That is the key. If you're not talking to your ops guy, the guys who actually deploy your tools, or the ops guys are not talking to the developer, the guys who actually write the code. As you would see, it's very interesting. There's so many aspects of it. Me working as director of engineering, I interact with a lot of other companies, other technology guys in other larger companies, and you hear these interesting stories from them as to what are some of the problems and how you can make things very efficient. So one guy I was chatting with, he works in Silicon Valley, and he talks about telemetry. Have you guys heard the word telemetry? Okay, it's all about, you know, seeing a bunch of auditing data when you're running your program in production. So oftentimes what happens is that in typical deployments, developers write the code, QA verifies it, and it goes into production, and that's the team that runs it. Only the developers are contacted when there's a problem in production. Okay, so what that person told me was that you want to make sure that developers are seeing the data as things are happening in production. Give them access to the audit logs, give them whatever telemetry you have. The advantage of that is that developers, when they write code, they write with certain assumptions. That may or may not hold good while the code runs in production. This person gave some examples to say they were anticipating APIs to be called in a certain way, but in reality they were able to it was being called in a different way. So they were able to see the problems and correct it. So as we will talk about in this presentation, a lot of emphasis is beginning to end. and end is while the program when the program is running in production. DevOps is treating your infrastructure as code. This is very brand new concept. This is brand new in even Azure as well. I don't know if you guys heard of that. Infrastructure as code. You know, back in the traditional days, if you were to deploy something, you would create a virtual machine, you would create this resource, you would create that database. The DevOps guys know what those are. The developers don't know. You know, and then what's going on right now is the infrastructure as a code. What it means is that you're defining those things as part of configuration of your application. So when you develop your application, you've got different configurations. One is for your development, one is for your QA, one is for staging, one is for production. And as the code goes to different levels, those infrastructures are automatically created by the tools that you're using. And the tool that I'm going to talk about is the Visual Studio online services. They have the capabilities. There are other tools that does that, but the idea here is that you don't tinker around with any configuration while the system is running. Everything is code. If you need to make a configuration change in production, you check in the code, that goes through the process, it gets deployed, and that's how it goes. Now you have a full audit trail. You're not tinkering around at all while the system is running by hand. So no FTP.
I would make one comment, I think, about this infrastructure as code. It makes reproducible infrastructure, which is often more plastic.
Exactly. Yeah. So another example I want to give is that this is early stages of our cloud journey when we were asking with another expert to say, hey, I have to do a data migration in the cloud from, for example, we're going to use MongoDB to a document DB. How do I do that? Do I write a script and run it one time ad hoc? And they said, no, you have to own everything, all the infrastructure. If you think a migration is needed, you write the code for that, you push that, you test that in development, push that through the pipeline, it goes into QA, it goes into staging, and it runs into production all by itself. It should be all automated. You may have to push a button, but no more running like a quick and dirty script to do your data migration, none of that. That's not efficient at all. And as you would know that there are several slides highlighting the problems with non-following those processes.
But the code you are deployed should be obliged in the policy of SIEM,
Yeah.
security information.
Right, yeah, definitely. They're all security built in. When I show you the tools, you'll see that there's all kind of security built in. Who can do administration, who can do code checking, and there are lots of things there. So, as I said, DevOps is using automation, a lot of automation, lots of feature switches you can turn on, turn off. Smaller deployment, this is also very key. Back in the days, you would see a project takes 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, and they eventually fail. They're not successful. Today, we have all gone into Agile. You guys all follow Agile procedures, policies, like 2 weeks, two more or less? Sometimes some people do, some don't. If you don't, I think you should definitely get into the Agile or get some training there. There's a lot of advantages. Personally, I've been following it for about 5 years or so, if not longer. I think the biggest takeaway is that when the team meets every day, every 15 minutes, we'll call a stand-up, and you get to know what the other person is saying, that is very important. You get the idea of a team. So, and when you do Agile, one of the key aspects of DevOps is that you don't want to wait 3 months or 6 months for your software to get delivered. You want to do incremental pushes. You increment, your team was working on a 2-week sprint, things look good, you run through the QA, you push it to production, smaller incremental. I go to Microsoft conferences, and I don't know if you guys ever watched any of their .NET group videos. They're trying to break even Visual Studio and the .NET and the toolings on the Visual Studio. They're all trying to break down the dependencies so they can all be released separately. So smaller releases is the next trend. You want to focus on that, how you can break your software in such a way that you're able to do smaller. I know some of places you cannot move that faster, but the smaller deployment is key.
What if the project is big, in the sense that there was time that we have to write 2 million line code. That's our project. How would that work?
Yeah, I mean, that is always a challenge, you know, those legacy applications, so you leave those as is, but the idea is that, I think, you know, my company, this is CMS, Content Management System, open source, been around for 10 years, I don't know how many lines of code, hundreds of developers worked on it over a period of that, it's so hard to now. Our regression cycle, manual testing is about 10 days, and we do release every kind of a 2 to 3 months, depends. What we're trying to do now is that trying to go into Azure Cloud and use microservices. Microservices is just essentially breaking down your larger monolithic application into smaller chunks, and you manage, and these are independent microservices. I don't know if you guys are hearing this new trend or not. All of these modern companies like Netflix, Uber, you name it, they all or what they call using as microservices. So I was watching a video from the guys from Uber. They were saying they started with a handful of microservices. Now they have about 700 microservices. Can you imagine? It can go out of hand very easily. But that's a whole different paradigm where people are coming up with patterns there. But I think I don't have a real solution for your monolithic application, and you have to live with it. But I think anytime you get an option to refactor that, or you have an option to move some of the code, suggestion is to look into the microservices. That is the next sort of the wave on how things are going.
I'm not sure how long you've been with .NET, BNN Corp, but would you say the code base has substantially evolved outside of what it was 10 years ago? Now it's I mean, your guys are moving in a new direction, but one can imagine the original code base was evolved 10 years ago or developed 11 years ago in a totally different mindset.
Oh yeah.
Have you totally migrated away from the original mindset, or are there still the original mindset sitting in the code somewhere?
Well, yeah, the mindset has definitely changed because some of the people that have been there, they're no longer there. So I mean, we have new people coming in. So the mindset has definitely changed, but some of the code is still there, and it is. So people are so scared to go into some of the key areas of the content management system. So many things can break. Security, and these systems are extensible. People have actually built businesses out of that, and you got to make sure that they're all backwards compatible. I mean, there's some White House runs on Drupal, right? As a whole different application. So the way we develop is that we're not only developing for ourselves, but we have developers who actually build on it. So we have to think from API and whatnot. But definitely, we are going away from that whole monolithic mindset. We're going into smaller increments. And we work with an open source community, and part of that is that educating that community to be part of that, to do smaller changes, a lot more manageable. So Kanban, have you guys heard of Kanban? What is Kanban?
It shows up in the Azure site as a command line management.
Yeah, so I'll show you what Kanban is. Kind of, yeah,
That's
different.
That's a different case.
Yeah, it's a different
sorry.
one. What?
Is this a word from Japanese?
It is a Japanese word, definitely. It is a Japanese word.
Manufacturing process.
Exactly, that's where it all came from. In fact, most of the Agile, this whole concept came from, I think it's called, Toyota is the company that pioneered it. And that's where their whole focus was to reduce defects while doing the manufacturing. They were really great on the quality aspect. So a lot of those things have come out from the physical world now into the digital world. I'll talk about Kanban. If you've not heard of that, then it's good to know. It's really great to learn all that. So, you know, in terms of the DevOps, there are 3 stages of conversation. One is the people, as someone mentioned about the culture, the dev and the ops, they really need to work together, need to come up with a process. And, you know, with any process, you need to think about tools. You guys all use bug tracking, or any kind of online management tool for managing your problem tracking, inventory management, and all that, right? And there has been, you could have done all that by piece of paper, but you all moved on to using a tool, right? A mature tool. DevOps is just right there now. There are tools, and that's where Microsoft is making headway. There are other companies, Chef and all those, they're all making headway. So it's time to have some mature tools here. And obviously, at the end, the products come out. So we talked about some of the software delivery challenges. I'm sure you guys would have seen a lot of frustration, 3 months, 6 months,